Trump's DOJ was just given a scathing rebuke by a Trump-appointed district judge out of Georgia. Trump's DOJ tried to issue a grand jury subpoena to gain access to the personal information of literally every election worker and every election volunteer from the 2020 election. This included even the information from somebody who maybe drove a bus of the mobile voting center. Well, the Judge Ray from the Northern District of Georgia was nominated by Trump back in 2018, issued a scathing denial of this information, saying that it was staggering and how broad it was, that it would have a chilling effect on elections and on election workers in Fulton County. This Trump-appointed judge was so concerned about how much private information the DOJ was trying to get through this means of not even identifying what they were investigating, says this. Quote, everyone, whether you support the president or you do not, or whether you believe the 2020 election was fair or believe that it was not, should be concerned about the DOJ's ability to utilize the power of the grand jury to appropriate your private information without a legitimate purpose. Just a scathing order of denial from this Trump-appointed judge, showing the level of really just the lawlessness from Trump's DOJ. Now, the subpoena was issued back in April 17th, and it was moved to quash by the Board of Elections of Georgia. They argued basically what the judge then agreed with. They agreed with their motion to quash. Now, if you remember, of course, Georgia was where they went and seized all those ballots. That was in January. So in January, they seized the ballots. Then come April, they tried to get this information about their election workers. Now, let me just tell you exactly what they were trying to get and who they were trying to get it from. The subpoena was asking specifically about information from the 2020 election. They wanted the names, functions, residential and email addresses, and personal telephone numbers for all individuals assigned to review mail-in ballots, all individuals assigned to the voter review panel board, individuals assigned to mobile voting locations, individuals assigned to transfer results to or from media or to transport ballot stock or media, individuals employed or contracted by the Fulton County Board of Registration Elections, individuals who worked or volunteered on election day who were assigned to review or tabulate ballots, individuals who worked or volunteered for the risk limiting audit, individuals who worked or volunteered for the recount, individuals who served as precinct managers and assistant managers. This huge volume and breadth of this subpoena is why it was so resoundingly rejected by the judge. And they point out, and how interesting this is, that this was requested by a federal prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of North Carolina, not Georgia, of North Carolina, and that it was issued working at the direction of the U.S. Attorney Dan Bishop. And not only are they asking for all of this information, but they're asking for this information not to be given to the grand jury, despite the fact that this is a grand jury subpoena, as if they were doing investigations and need to collect information for the grand jury to consider. But they made this point in their motion to quash, the Board of Elections and Registrars in their motion to quash, is that this information was being sent to an out-of-state FBI agent for the purpose of a general election investigation. Because not only the fact that they're not giving it to the grand jury, but also the statute of limitations has run if there were any crimes actually committed back in 2020, if there was a 5-year statute of limitation. So they're asking for this huge amount of personal information for anybody who has happened to work on elections or volunteer to work on elections, not giving it to the grand jury, despite the fact that this is a grand jury subpoena, but also not doing it for any specific crime, but for this general investigation. And we all know Those of us who have been following this, we see Trump and all of the things that DOJ has been trying to do, right? They've been trying to get access to personal voter information and have been denied it by the court in state after state after state. We know their investigations that they're doing in Arizona. We know that they're notifying Michigan officials that they plan on sending people there. That just came out. But here is Senator Ossoff, of course, from Georgia, talking about why it seems that Trump has this particular obsession with Fulton County. Take a look.
And here we are in Georgia, where he sent spies and agents to seize our ballots. Did you see that, Savannah? Now, why Georgia? Why Fulton County? I submit to you it's because the fact that black voters were instrumental to his defeat might be even more offensive to this committed racist than defeat itself. And now here in Georgia, he wants to send an election denier to the U.S. Senate.
Now, Trump's own words has been used again and again in litigation, successful litigation against him. And this is no different. In a motion to quash, they cite posts by Trump, specifically starting on October 23rd, 2023, showing that this is about harassing poll workers. This is about retribution, not actually any fact-finding legitimate mission. They specifically mentioned this specific post, saying that he reposted an image of two black women with papers and masks, including the following text, quote, "Start arresting the poll workers and watch how fast they tell you who told them to cheat." And then on August 14th, 2023, quote, "Those who rigged and stole the election were the ones doing the tampering, and they are the slime that should be prosecuted." And then August 17th, 2023, posting a link to an article titled, "How Should the GOP Respond to Fulton County? Indict the Left." The article concludes, quote, "Investigate first, define the crimes later," which is exactly what this subpoena was doing. It wasn't identifying any crimes. In fact, they were talking about general investigation. And do we need to reiterate how much the 2020 election was already litigated? I mean, he even went in front of the Supreme Court, and everybody but Justice Clarence Thomas declined to want to take the case. I mean, this has been over-litigated. This clearly seems like retribution, revenge, harassment, intimidation. And they talk about Ruby Freeman in this motion to quash because, as we know, famously, Trump and others, Rudy Giuliani, just defamed them, claimed that somehow they were cheating. Of course, they were black women as well, and that somehow they were the reason why he lost because of what they were tampering. And they sued, they sued Rudy Giuliani for defamation, and they won because truth is a defense to defamation. They won over $100 million in damages because of the harm, the significant harm that resulted. And this is also quoted in the motion to quash, that handing over personal information to people who have already proven to harass and defame people, and we're talking about a jury deciding that they were defamed, that just shows a pattern of why you should not hand over this kind of personal information, which again, the judge ultimately agreed with here. And as we know, Rudy Giuliani had to settle with Ruby Freeman. So the amount, we don't know exactly how much it got paid, but there was a financial settlement. So apparently, trying to get a huge amount of information from a large amount of people from the elections in 2020 for no specific purpose, to give it not to the grand jury, but to some people out of state, was a step too far for even this Trump-appointed judge. And his order is scathing, and he pulls no punches. He says, quote, "The breadth of the grand jury subpoena is staggering. And he says that as compared to the DOJ's low need for the subpoenaed information, the burden of compliance for Fulton County is severe. And then he also says, quote, "Such a large disclosure of information threatens to chill participation in future elections, which will surely impact Fulton County." And I would say that was the point, to chill participation in elections in Fulton County. High majority Black voting district and a place that Trump lost and he just can't get over. My name is Dina Doll. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Be sure to free subscribe if you haven't already and find the Mistrial podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please support the Mistrial sponsors. So grateful for them because they never censor what I have to say.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.